Minnesota quit. Now, I picked them to win. I picked OKC to win. I didn't see any way that Minnesota was going to win game 5 against OKC, given the mental state they were in after losing game 4. I thought a blowout like this could come. I didn't think that significant of a blowout was possible. That was a horrendous blowout. That was an embarrassing blowout. That was a blowout of the sorts that Minnesota should not just think about restructuring their team, but certain players need to think about the type of players they are. Minnesota lost 124-94 to OKC. And here's the craziest stat. Here's the craziest stat of this game, and quite honestly, it's not even close. Minnesota went into halftime with 14 turnovers. They went into halftime with 12 field goals. Yeah, that's right. They went into halftime with 14 turnovers. They went into halftime with 12 field goals. More turnovers than field goals when they went into halftime. That's absolutely embarrassing. Part of this, look, I said it before. I said it the other day. Mike Conley, love you, Mike. You got to retire. You're a great leader. You're a great, mature person. I'm a long-term Grizzly fan. I love what you did during the grit and grind Grizzlies. Mike just doesn't have it anymore. 0 points, over 3 from the field. He was bad the other night too. I think he's got to hang it up. But the main culprit, and we're putting this all on him, Rudy Gobert obviously played terrible, or just was really non-existent. But Julius Randle obviously played terrible the other night. Julius Randle deserved all the smoke the other night. He didn't play great in this one, but he did finish with 24 points in the end, meaningless points. But the culprit's Anthony Edwards. After telling us all the other night that he didn't struggle when he had no points except for a meaningless free throw in the final 5 minutes of that game in game 4 at home in Minnesota, after telling us, I didn't struggle. I made the right basketball play. And said, I didn't have enough shots to struggle, even though he missed more 3-point attempts than anybody else on the field, or anybody else on the court that day. And he had 5 turnovers, which literally flies in the face of the logic of he made the right basketball play and he didn't have enough shots to struggle. Hey, Anthony Edwards repeated it. He repeated his failed efforts. He went 1 of 7 from 3 in this game. He had 19 points. He was 7 of 18 from the field. Anthony Edwards was a disaster. He panicked. And he panicked the other night. In this game, he flat out quit. Now, I've given a lot of criticism to Tom Thibodeau in the past for Karl Anthony Towns not getting more touches. But that's because Karl Anthony Towns is a big. I put more on Anthony Edwards for not taking over games with Minnesota than I do Chris Finch, the head coach of Minnesota. I'm just going to say that. All right. Anthony Edwards had no business doing what he did and disappearing the way he did. Now, to Anthony Edwards' credit, he only had 3 turnovers in this game and not 5, as Minnesota as a team had 21 turnovers. Anthony Edwards is a disaster in crunch time and in games that matter. And Ant-Man straight up quit in this one. Okay. He straight up quit. It was an absolute disgraceful performance. It was pointed out at one point in the first half that Oklahoma City won 100% of the 50-50 balls. Wasn't Minnesota supposed to be the desperate team here? They were trailing 3-1. They needed to find a way to get back in the series. Shouldn't they have been the one winning every 50-50 ball? And Oklahoma City could say, we're going to take a night off. We'll try to go win game 6 at home. Oklahoma City was the one playing like they were down 3-1 in the series. That's absolutely ridiculous. So Anthony Edwards, with that alone, as the main guy on this team, deserves a lot of blame, but the whole team deserves blame for just quitting. I mean, again, they just flat out quit in this game in OKC. Not only were there more 50-50 balls, Stephen A. Smith pointed out at halftime. Did you guys catch this? Oklahoma City was the one who came out first to practice shooting in warmups to begin the second half, even though at the time they were up 65-32. They went into halftime up 65-32. Minnesota scored 9 points in the first quarter. They scored 9 points in the first quarter. Don't quote me on this, but there's a really good possibility they had more turnovers in the first quarter than points. It was that bad. Okay, Minnesota was horrendous, even though, funny enough, Minnesota did jump out to a 3-0 lead. They scored the first buckets. It didn't matter. Minnesota might have had, I got to think about this for a minute. You guys can look it up, but I think Minnesota had more turnovers. They might have more turnovers than they had points in the first quarter. The only reason that's probably not possible is the turnovers really took off in the second quarter, as they got a little more desperate. But they do have, I mean, I'm counting it now. They had 3 turnovers. I mean, this could be a crazy stat. 4 turnovers. They had 4 turnovers and they had 9 points. I'm counting them out now. Four turnovers, 9 points. We're still getting down the list. Let's see. It looks like no, they didn't have. Okay, so they had 4 turnovers, 9 points. Well, congratulations, Minnesota. You had 9 points to 4 turnovers in the first quarter. You did a really good job there. But it was absolutely embarrassing for everybody involved the way Minnesota closed out that series. It was just as embarrassing. The Thunder are making a habit out of this. The Thunder are making a habit out of making teams look disgraceful with how they play. I mean, let's not even get started with the way the Grizzlies were made to look by the Thunder early in the playoffs, and John Morant laughing on the sideline as his team is down 50, not even caring, as he has not cared ever since he got his $2 million contract. I'm going to point that out. The Grizzlies should let him go. That's a different topic for a different day. But still, more turnovers than field goals from halftime. Oh, and Anthony Edwards had the worst plus minus of the game. I believe it finished at -29. It did. Nobody else was within 7 of that. So this still falls on Anthony Edwards. He disappeared when it mattered. He's been doing that. It needs to be called out. Anthony Edwards is worthy of all the bit of scorn, particularly, and this is the big deal here, particularly when he tried to defend the way he played the other night, when he said, I didn't struggle, I made the right basketball play, and I didn't have enough shots to struggle, when you missed more 3-pointers than anybody else on the court, and you had 5 turnovers. How is that I didn't struggle? That's a bad night, okay? That's a really bad night. Anthony Edwards absolutely did struggle. It was absolutely a travesty how he played. It's a travesty how Minnesota played in this game. And taking it all into account, Minnesota quit, and Chris Finch deserves some blame for not having them ready to go, but I don't know what more he could have done. I mean, a lot of this you just got to put on the players. Minnesota, I'll say this, and I talked about this before with the Ant-Man Kevin Garnett comparisons, because I just talked about how SGA is the greatest Thunder of all time, and he is already. No, it's all said and done. Ant-Man has not passed Kevin Garnett as the greatest Timberwolf of all time. He just hasn't, okay? Kevin Garnett, whatever you want to say about him, and I know he had 7 straight first-round losses in Minnesota, when during most of that time his second-best player was Wally Szczerbiak. He never would have gone out like that. He never, ever, ever would have gone out like that. Anybody who knows KG knows he wouldn't go out like this. Kevin Garnett would, if he did lose this game like this, when it was in crunch time, when it mattered most, it's because he had no help. I remember there was one playoff series where they were facing the Lakers, and the three-peat Lakers, by the way, at the time, and his second best option was Troy Hudson. Anybody remember him? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, let's stop with the Ant-Man maybe surpassing Kevin Garnett's legacy in Minnesota talk. That ain't happening either. That's over, and that needs to stop.